Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have talked about setting up users, groups, and policies. But how do you know if your account is actually secure? Today, we are going to look at two essential free built in IAM tools that act as your security auditors: the IAM Credentials Report and the Last Access feature. These two tools help answer two critical security questions. The first question is: are my users' credentials secure and compliant? So for that, you use this credential report. And the second one is: are my users over provisioned? So to solve this question, we'll use the last access feature in AWS. And we know that security is an ongoing process, not a one-time setup, and we must audit for weak credentials and unnecessary permissions. That is called permission creep. So if you see here, right, there is a user who was starting with very minimal access at the starting who can access EC2, but later we have added so many permissions to him which accumulated so many unused services. So these services and permissions are not required to this user, but over a period of time we are accumulated those things. So usually we call it as permissions creep. Okay. So IAM provides two essential free tools to help. One is credentials report, second one is last access to avoid this permission creep. So let's dive into first one, IAM credentials report. And the IAM credentials report is your account wide health check. You can call it as the audit. It's an indispensable audit tool that you can generate and download right from the AWS console itself. And on the right side, you can see the CSV example. This is an example screenshot, but the original CSV file we will go through during our hands-on session. Now let's start with one question. What it is? It's a comprehensive report, a downloadable CSV file that lists every single IAM user in your account. And what it tells you, it details the status of various credentials, including MFA status. Is multi-factor authentication enabled for a user? This is a huge security flag if it is false. Second, password status. When was the password last used or rotated? Is one even set? So this kind of information also available in CSV file. And access keys related status. Do they have access keys when they are created, and when were they last used, and when were they last rotated? So this kind of information is available in the CSV file. Since this is an account level report, you get a bird eyes view of entire organization's credential hygiene, and you can instantly spot users with old unrotated access keys or missing MFA and take immediate action. So that's the advantage of using IAM Credentials Report. Moving on to the next tool, I can say it's like a feature, the IAM Last Access feature. This tool is your best friend for enforcing the least privilege principle. So you can call it as the enforcement. Since we have learned about the importance of least privilege principle, and if you are looking how to enforce it, this particular feature will help you. And where you find it? You find the last access feature within the details page of any IAM user, group, or role. And what it tells, it shows you all the service permissions granted to that entity. For example, the entity should be S3 bucket, EC2, or Lambda. But the crucial piece of data is when those services are last accessed. So this is the crucial part, right? Even though the user have multiple permissions, but when they accessed it. In the right hand side, you can able to see this Amazon EC2, the user never accessed. This particular user never accessed. So in that case, giving permission to this user to access EC2 is not necessary because he is not at all using that permission, right? So we are not following that least privilege principle. To enforce that, you need that information, no? So for to get that information, you can use this last access feature. And now we need to understand the power of least privilege principle, right? If a developer has permissions to 50 AWS services, but the last access feature shows they haven't touched RDS or EC2 instance for 400 days, you know that permission is unused. You can use this information to confidently revise your policies, removing unnecessary permissions that tightening security. This eliminates what we call permission creep, right? And you can see one more use case also here. You can identify unused services, for example, S3 access. Here, the S3 was not accessed 300 days, right? Till 300 days and never used since the user given permission. Then you reverse the policy confidently. Since we are confident that this user is not using S3, confidently remove that permission since he was never used that permission or rarely used, right? And this completely avoids permission creep and we enforce the least privilege principle, which is an essential part in AWS security. So in conclusion, the IAM credential report gives you the big picture on who can access your account and how safe their credentials are. The IAM least access feature gives you the surgical details on what services they are actually using. Use these two tools together to maintain a strong least privilege security posture in your AWS environment. So, the security habit you have to maintain is first run the credential reports to fix the MFA and key rotation issues. Second, check the last access for every high privilege user or role and tweak the policies to enforce principle of least privilege. Now we will see the hands-on of these two tools, two security tools. The first one we discussed is IAM Credentials Report, right? So to get that report, first go to your IAM section in your AWS console. First open the AWS console and go to IAM section. Inside IAM, right in the left side menu, you can able to find the credential report under access report section. So click on the credential report and here you can able to see you have here you can able to see there is an option to download credential report, this button, right? So if I click on this button, it will download a CSV file to me. So it's the report which will list all the IAM users in this account. Okay, so now if I try to open this particular report, you can able to see different information which is more than what I have shown in the screenshot in our slides. Since in our slides I have taken only few information to illustrate you, but here this is the real hands-on data. Look, I have only one account, that is root account, and this is the ARN, and this is when that user created the root user, and this user is using this password that is enabled, right? So the credential, this user is using password, and when he last used it and when he last changed it, right? Those two different information, and whether the password was rotated. So password rotation is not supported here, and you can see is MFA active. So this is a new account I'm using, so MFA is still not active. And access key created, no, I haven't created any access key till now, and the rotation is not applicable since access key is not rotated. Like that, you will have multiple information, no? For example, access key one last used date, and access key last used region. So you will have multiple details of your credentials for a particular user. So here I have root user, and you can have different users like Aditya and Ram, Sai. So you have different users like this, and each and every user their ARN and whether they are using MFA or not, password enabled or not. So this kind of information, this kinds of credentials information will be stored in this credential report. And moving on to the next tool, that is ours IAM Last Access feature. So if you want to see that feature, you have to navigate through a user role or group. So I'm going to users. So here you can see I have a test user, Aditya test user, and if I click on this user, right, in this page, inside that user, you can have an option called last accessed here, And if you click on this last access tab here, right, it will list all the access information. So all the privileges or permissions this particular user have, right? These particular users have so many services allowed to access, but you can see not accessed in the tracking period or never accessed. So for example, I will search for EC2 here, and you can see this user has administrated access and also he currently not accessed. So I recently added this, since this is my new free account. I recently added this particular user, so that's why you are not having tracking information here. But if I started using this account for 2 months and I missed, like I'm not using the EC2 instance for more than 2 months, it will show when I last accessed this resource. And if I'm not accessing this resource, right, better to remove that resource or permission for these users to ensure the enforcement, the least privilege principle enforcement. Yeah. So yeah, that's it about these two security tools, and use these two security tools to strengthen your AWS security. So start using these today. They are invaluable security assets. If you find this helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. See you in the next one. Bye.